Rosie.
And I'm Baldwin.
We're loving this time together and can't believe that we've already halfway into this 12-part skill building series.
For this session, let's start with a question. Are there some areas in your relationship that you try to avoid talking about because you know that it won't be pretty? Don't worry, you're not alone. We call them hot topics, and we'll talk about them in today's session. How do you handle these hot topics?
Like money or politics, you get the idea. The topics that always seem to result in fights. Let's dig in and learn some skills so we can couple better.
Welcome to session 6 of World Class Relationships for Work and Home. My name is Alfonso, and I'll be your instructor once again for this session. In this session, we're going to cover 2 pillars. We're going to start with pillar 11, called Handling Hot Topics. And we're going to follow up with pillar number 12, Resolving Conflicts and Disagreements. Remember, there's 16 pillars that we're covering. We're working our way through all of them. And again, these are the 16 different areas in your life where if you take these pillars, and if you take this information, if you take these skills that we're teaching you, that they will help you to have a world-class relationship with people in your life, whether it's your spouse, your coworkers, your children, friends, people around you. Because, as I've mentioned before, life is about relationships. We're surrounded by people that we have relationships with. So these are 16 different areas that we're focusing on. In today's session, we're going to focus on handling hot topics and resolving conflicts and disagreements. Let's begin. Let's begin with pillar 11, handling hot topics. Hot topics are especially sensitive areas that are difficult for any relationship to maneuver or to handle. Sex and money are 2 of the most common hot topics for a lot of people. And there are others, including politics and religion and dealing with in-laws. And I'll also add the pandemic as well. It's become a hot topic for a lot of people. So many differing opinions on this, on these hot topics. Some of these topics apply to relationships at work, and others are exclusively the domain of relationships at home. We've all read, the magazine articles around the holidays that say, something along the lines of how to interact with family members you disagree with politically during Thanksgiving dinner. Whatnot, right? We've all read those stories because it's a hot topic. Maybe you don't see, your cousin or your uncle that often, but when you do, you just disagree. You're passionate about a certain subject, and so is he or she, and you disagree on that. That's a hot topic. So I'm going to ask some questions that I want you to ponder as we talk about this topic. What might be some of the hot topics that exist for your relationships in the workplace? What about at home? Why are these topics difficult to discuss successfully? And what happens if these discussions don't go well? Lisa, I want you to ponder as we talk about this subject. I want you to ponder about these questions in your own life, in your own relationships. What are some hot topics that exist? It may not be money or sex. It may be religion, it might be politics. It may be a number of other things. Remember, hot topics are just things or subjects that are very touchy. They're sensitive in your family or in your relationships. So what can I do when emotionally loaded topics come up? Let me share some guiding principles for you. Number 1, you have to let compassion rule. Having and showing compassion for one another is important, is vital. Let that be the guiding principle. Let compassion rule. And of course, emotional stakes are high. It's a hot topic. So be aware that the emotional stakes are really high, and feelings run strong, and tension increases when you realize you're not in agreement on this important subject. Know that concern about outcomes is high, and inner confidence may be low as well. So I want you to keep that in mind. That's another guiding principle. Let compassion rule, and then realize that emotional stakes are high for both parties. Another guiding principle is that strong feelings will get triggered. Vulnerability and defensiveness are easily aroused around hot topics. Realize that irrational fears, feelings of vulnerability, defensiveness, and strong needs for control are easily aroused. Uh, and that comes with the territory when talking about a hot topic. Therefore, to successfully deal with these hot topics, it's important to offer all your empathy, acceptance, and genuineness. Remember, those are the three conditions for growth, according to Carl Rogers, a psychologist. Also, be sure to use your best listening, self-disclosing, and problem-solving skills. We've learned some of those already. When you do, handling hot topics can lead to tremendous personal growth and satisfaction. Out of all of these hot topics that I mentioned, we're just going to focus on one of them to use as an example. We're going to focus on money for a bit. Because it's a hot topic for almost all relationships. I want to use this subject of money as a way to kind of help you gain understanding about how to handle other hot topics. So we're going to focus on money. If you don't handle the topic of money well, what happens? In the workplace, the topics of money includes salaries, right? Money-related topics get handled, differently. Talking about promotions, talking about raises, talking about even the matter of layoffs, right? When we talk about money. So how these topics get handled, can damage the relationship with your boss, with management, or even the person interviewing you for a job, right? It can also damage your relationship with your coworkers. If you know that your coworker, that you think you're doing a better job than they do, they just got a raise and you didn't, it can damage that relationship when it comes with the topic of money. Now, in your relationship at home, talking about money, what are we talking about? We're talking about bills, whether you're saving enough for a rainy day, where we have a retirement fund, budgeting, stuff like that. The topics of money can lead to big arguments and strong feelings of frustration, resentment, and alienation as well. Maybe one of you is a big spender. They want to live in the moment. You want to live in the moment. You want to go to a ball game. You want to go camping. You want to go on a vacation. You want to buy a car. You want to, live in the moment. And your partner maybe does not. They want to save for a rainy day. They want to, plan for the future. They want to retire young maybe, and they want to be frugal now so that they can spend money down the line. And you just disagree. So it becomes a hot topic. So money is an important topic to be able to handle well. Let's talk now about a new path for hot topics. There are two keys that unlock the door to successful interactions about money, talking about the subject of money. The first one is recognizing the role of fear. Most people have large but unrecognized fears and anxiety about money. We think we're dealing with it on a rational basis, while our unrecognized fears are seriously distorting our thought processes. These fear-caused distortions often cause unnecessarily difficult arguments, right, about money. To handle these, here's some tips. Use power listening and non-blameful self-disclosure, XYZ messaging, to help each of you to have meaningful communications about money. Also, have compassion for each other's irrational reactions. Help each other cope. Use lots of power listening when your partner or your colleague shares their thoughts or concerns or fears. It will enable you to avoid arguments and create much greater understanding and agreement. Also, recognize that underneath all of his or her anxieties, your partner or your colleague probably wants to meet all of your needs and give you whatever you're wanting or asking for, even though this may not be possible. Despite outward appearances, he or she, deep down, is probably frustrated or sad that she can't meet your needs. This could be with a hiring manager who's offering you less money than you'd like to have, or it could be with your boss who's sounding resistant to giving you a raise. You ask for a raise and he's very resistant. Or this could be with your spouse who's complaining about not getting a new car or a nice vacation or something special for their birthday. We're going to now do an exercise on this subject of hot topics and how to handle them. Let me give you some instructions before I give you some minutes for you to do the exercise with your partner. I want you to choose who's going to be partner A and who's going to be partner B. Okay, and we're gonna role play here for a bit with your partner. So this is the role for partner A. If you decided you're going to be A, this is the scenario. You work for a food service company. You're doing well with good reviews on your performance report. You haven't had a raise for over 2 years, and you feel you're overdue for a raise. Your task is to send an XYZ message or an iMessage to your manager about how it is you feel when you feel you're making contributions to the company and you would like to receive a raise. So that's what you're going to tell your manager. So after you've sent your iMessage or your XYZ message to him about this, your job is to power listen with caring and compassion to whatever your manager says in response to your iMessage. Okay, so that's, if you're A, that's what your role is. If you're B, you're going to be the manager. You're going to play the manager in this scenario, okay? For a food service company that's doing okay, but profits are very slim at the present time. You know that some of your best employees haven't had a raise for a while, but there just isn't enough money to give all of them raises. And you're afraid, you fear that if you give anyone a raise, the word's going to get out and everyone is going to want one, right? And you can't afford that. So you're fearful of having this topic come up at all, okay? So that's the scenario. I want you, again, if you're A, I want you to give an iMessage to person B, and person B, you're the manager. I want you to also, to interact with person A. After you're done, I want you to process with your partner, okay? And I want you to answer these questions. Was person A able to send an XYZ message? Okay, so the person B, I want you to process and talk to your partner whether they were able to effectively communicate that XYZ message. And also, was person B, on the other hand, able to communicate his concern about not having enough money to pay for raises? Was person A able to hear and give feedback to person B's concerns, right, about not having enough money for raises, and what happened when person A did that? So again, person A is going to give an iMessage. Person B is going to give you the concerns. There's just not enough money. If I give a raise to you, everybody's going to want one. Your job as person A is to power listen to them. So I want you to, give them caring, give them empathy, and then see where that leads. Okay, so we're going to give you some minutes for you to interact with your partner in this scenario, in this exercise, so that you can practice, how to handle a hot topic at work in this scenario, but you also at home. You can begin. I'll give you some minutes. Let's now recap this pillar on handling hot topics. Remember, first point, keep your heart to heart connection. In these volatile areas of your lives, make a special point of keeping your heart to heart connection between you and your partner. This is the invisible thread between your hearts that keeps saying, no matter what else happens, our relationship, our caring, our love is what really matters at the end of the day. It's not the hot topic, but this is what matters, our relationship. Okay, that's the foundation. Holding this heart to heart connection will help you communicate in a caring, sharing way and protect the relationship while you are resolving issues like sex or money or politics and other difficult issues. I mentioned the pandemic as well. It's become a dividing issue in America, right? Whether I get the I wear a mask or not, or whether I get the shot or not, etc., the vaccine or not. It's become a hot topic as well. So whatever it is, remember, you want to keep that heart to heart connection first. Above it all, above the politics, above the money issues, the sex, the in-laws, the family issues, above it all, I'm in this relationship with you. I care about you, and we're going to maintain that heart-to-heart connection above everything else, okay? It's going to help you keep in mind the importance of retaining a caring and cooperative relationship together, no matter how difficult the topic, again, is that you're dealing with. Next, short-circuiting defensiveness and controllingness in hot topics. Remember to provide as much empathy, acceptance, and genuineness as possible when emotions run high. It may not be easy. You may struggle a bit with it because, again, your emotions are high as well, right? It's a hot topic for you as well. But if possible, give as much empathy. Again, empathy simply means put yourself in the other person's shoes, see the world through their eyes, right? Acceptance, I accept you for who you are. We may not agree in this topic, but I accept you and I love you for who you are. And genuineness, just be real, be yourself, be honest. Take responsibility for using power listening, non-blameful self-disclosure, and creative problem solving at the first sign of defensiveness. Make the most of these hot topic opportunities to grow into a stronger, wiser, more compassionate, less difficult human being through embracing the three conditions and using your very best communication skills. Let's go on to our next pillar, pillar number 12, resolving conflicts and disagreements. The two key factors in resolving conflicts are number one, your relationship, and number two, having a good system for handling problems. Let's start actually with a workbook exercise. I want you to go to page 34 and 35 of your workbook, and we're going to assess these factors in your relationship, okay? It's called When There's No Conflict. So here are the directions before I give you some minutes for you to work. This is for you to answer this question. Do you habitually treat others with deep respect in your day-to-day life? When there's no conflict, do you habitually treat others with deep respect? So there are three main sections and a smaller section as well. These sections are degree of respect in the relationship, how strong is your friendship, and the quality of your communication. So in sections A, B, and C, these are the scoring choices. I want you to put 3 if it's a lot. So they're going to ask you, they're going to make a statement as an example. Do you offer deep respect to your coworkers? Just as an example. If it's a lot, then put a 3. If it's sometimes a 2, and then if it's not much, put a 1. Again, this is only for you So we want you to be genuine, right, and honest with yourself, because you're the only one that's going to see this, and we want you to know, really what the answer is going to be for in your case. So those are sections A, B, and C. And then in section D, we're talking about the ratio of positive to negative interactions. So I want you to determine how many positive to negative statements you make each day. Okay? If it's more than 5-1, then I want you to put a 6 in that little box. Okay? If it's less than 5-1, then you're going to put a 1. So there's the only numbers you can put are going to put down. It's either a 6 or a 1, nothing else. Again, if you make more than 5-1 positive to negative interactions, which means for every negative interaction, you have at least 5 positive interactions. A thank you, a text message, you open the door, somebody, that's a positive interaction, right? A negative one is you say something mean, or you do something, to your spouse that they don't agree with. That's a negative interaction. So if you do more than 5-1, 5 positive to each negative, if you do more than that, then you put a 6 there. If you do less than that, then you put a 1, okay? Once you're done with all of that, with sections A, B, C, and also D, I want you to add the numbers, okay? A, B, C, and D, and read the explanations of what your score means. Let me just review those real quick just so you get an idea, okay? So once you're done with all of that, the possible ranges are between 20 and 65 points. If you scored between 51 and 65, what does that mean? You have a high degree of respect, friendship, and positive energy towards your coworkers, your friends, and your relationships, and that's going to support you strongly in resolving your conflicts and disagreements. This is your baseline. This is when there's no conflict. You have deep respect. If you score between 51 and 65, so it'll be easier for you to resolve conflicts. Now, if you score between 36 and 50, resolving arguments and conflicts is probably more difficult than it needs to be, right? To improve that, you have to, if you master the 16 pillars of a world-class relationship, it's going to greatly benefit you. It can be really helpful for you. And lastly, if you score between 20 and 35, you need to greatly increase the respect, friendship, and positive energy in your relationship. You can do this by working especially hard to master the 16 pillars that we're teaching. Until you do, resolving conflicts may be difficult or unpleasant. Or you might be tempted to avoid that unpleasantness by sweeping conflicts under the rug. They tend to fester, right, until they surface later on with accumulated resentment to deal with down the line. So it's better to master the 16 pillars now. So once you get your score, if it's lower than you like, this pillar will help you handle conflicts more effectively by presenting a systemic way to resolve them. So I'm going to give you some minutes for you to, it'll take you several minutes for you to complete this exercise. I want you to go to sections A, B, C, and D, then add up the scores. And then, as you can see, I mentioned already some of the score breakdown. It's also in your workbook exercise. So you get a better understanding, a better idea of how, what your baseline is. Whether it's with people you work with or your spouse, friends, etc., and others at home. Every long-term relationship has conflict of some kind. People, bump into each other in a variety of ways, right? That's the nature of relationships. Now, what's not important about that? How frequently or how loudly they occur. There's this misconception that if they see somebody that's been married for 40, 50 years, people assume they must never fight. And that's not the case. They might fight just as much as any other couple that's divorced, let's say. So it doesn't matter. The important part here is not how frequently or even how loudly they occur. What is important is how the health of your relationship affects the resolution. how your conflicts are conducted, and how your issues get resolved. If you remember back in week 1, we talked about the study that was done by Dr. Gottman, where he put people in a room in the love lab, and just by seeing them argue, he had a pretty good idea if that couple was going to make it or not, right? We're talking about how conflicts are conducted. Was it a harsh start to the argument or a soft start, right? Did they use, did they use sarcasm and irony while they were, where they were arguing, or did they not, right? These are certain things that's how if you're conducting the conflict or conducting the conversation in such a way that's going to be conducive for you to resolve it or not, okay? So regardless of any needs for improving the levels of friendship, respect, and positive interactions in your relationship, there are powerful steps you can take to manage and resolve conflicts and disagreements. We're going to talk about them in the next segment. Here are some techniques to avoid or deal with conflict. Number 1, avoid harsh starts. Whoever raises the issue needs to be aware that a harsh start runs a high risk of raising unnecessary defensiveness and increased likelihood of escalation rather than resolution. Blame, tit for tat, criticism, sarcasm, assault on a person's attitude or character. You attack their character, not the problem. We talked a little bit about that a little while ago. So try to avoid a harsh start to a disagreement. Here are some examples of some harsh starts. A boss says to an employee who arrives at work late, "You think you can come in late day after day and without my noticing it? Do you think I'm stupid or something?" That's a harsh start. Or a wife has bought some clothes, right? The husband says, "The amount you spend on clothes is driving us to the poorhouse. Do you think we're made of money?" That's a harsh start as well. So avoid harsh starts if at all possible. If you start with a harsh start, what can you do? Take a few minutes to calm down, okay? Apologize. Also ask permission to start over with a soft start. Our 8-year-old daughter, as an example, she knows this by now. We've taught her this. So when she makes a mistake or she comes in with a harsh start, she'll come and ask us, "I'm sorry, can we start over?" And I say that to you as well. If you do catch yourself starting with a harsh start, you can always go back and say, "I'm sorry, let me back up, let me calm down. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done this. Can we start over?" And that's how if you do start with a harsh start, that's how you can take a step back, and it's never too late to try to fix it, okay? So bottom line, try to avoid a harsh start whenever possible. The real secret of avoiding harsh starts is to use non-blameful self-disclosure, followed by genuinely empathic restatements of your partner's responses. We call it power listening. Continuing to shift gears between your self-disclosure and power listening until you both clearly understand each other's position. So again, you start with an I message, right? It's non-blameful, but I'm giving you my self-disclosure. I'm telling you why this is bothering me. Whatever you said or you did, this is why it's bothering me, but I'm not attacking your character. I'm not attacking you personally. I'm just focused on the action, right? On what you said or what you did. But it doesn't end there. And then you have to follow that up by power listening to them. Now, you may not feel like doing it because you're upset, but if you want to reach a solution, right, to this conflict, then you have to be able to power listen to them, right? And then you have to go back and forth, shift gears between your self-disclosure and power listening until you both really understand where you both stand, right? Each other's position. So how does this work? You start with an XYZ message to express needs. Again, The X is a non-blameful description of the person's behavior. This is just a review. The Y is the impact that behavior has on you. How does that behavior impact me directly, tangibly, right? How does that impact me? Does it affect my time? Does it take away my time, my wallet? How does it impact me, right? And Z, how does that make me feel? What are your feelings about that impact? X, Y. So that's how you start. And then you shift, like I mentioned, to power listening to hear the other person's needs as well. Remember that every behavior is intended to meet a need, right? So I want to hear your needs as well. Why did you do that? What need are you trying to fill? And you do that by power listening to them. And then you use a power solving formula when X, Y, Z and power listening aren't enough to resolve the issue. We're going to use what we call the 6-step win-win process. The famous American educator John Dewey teased out the 6 steps that we go through consciously or unconsciously to solve a problem. The all-important first step was to clearly define the problem. Thomas Gordon, the psychologist, developer of parent effectiveness training, transformed Dewey's process into an effective formula for resolving conflicts between people by defining the conflict, which is step 1, in terms of both parties' needs. So this insight handles two issues, right? First, the conflicts typically arise as two opposing solutions, which seem at times mutually exclusive, right? And then a battle ensues, with one party winning and the other losing. Instead, Gordon helps us to see the advantage of putting aside the competing solutions, at least temporarily, to ask what needs would be met by those solutions. Now, those underlying needs, when uncovered, are seldom in conflict, right? That's number 1. Second, both parties are entitled to get their needs met. That's important. We don't want to just have one winner, and usually that's how it goes, right? You're in you're in an argument with a significant other, somebody you have a relationship with, whether at work or your partner or your child or whatever, and there's always a winner or a loser, right? When there's an argument, somebody's got to win, and that's where the problems begin, right? There's a conflict, and one party is a winner and one party is a loser. But no, here Gordon came up with a better solution, a better formula, where both parties can win. Okay, and it starts with understanding that both parties are entitled to get their own needs met. This is an important ingredient in having a successful relationship, right? And the rest of the 6-step process is designed to make this possible. So let's talk about the 6 steps to a win-win. Number 1, the first step is to define the conflict in terms of both parties' needs. So let's start there, right? What are your needs and what are my needs? Once you have that information, then you go to the next step. The second step is you brainstorm many solutions. You have to be creative here. Creatively, you have to brainstorm that might meet both sets of needs. So number 1, you have a need and I have a need, and there's a conflict here. Now let's sit together and let's brainstorm. A lot of times when we bring emotion into it, we don't want to do that. We just want to win the argument, right? And you say, I have my needs and that's it. I don't care about your needs. I have my needs and I want to win this argument. But if you set those emotions aside, you sit down and you negotiate. You brainstorm as many solutions as possible. Once you do that, the third step is evaluate and reality test those solutions. Now let's see, we're trying to be creative. We have 20 possible solutions. Which ones actually work? Let's be realistic. Let's reality test these solutions. Okay. The fourth step is you choose solutions that both agree on. Maybe out of the 20, you start crossing off which ones one of you don't agree with. Okay, fine. Until you come down to maybe a couple, and then you choose the best one that you're both okay with. Okay, that's the fourth step. The fifth step is implementation. You implement the solution by deciding who does what by when. Okay, be realistic in that. Okay, and I want you to write down exactly who's doing what and when. Okay, be as detailed as possible. And six is you check the results to make sure the solution works. Okay, so to use the 6 steps to resolve a conflict with your partner, you need 3 more ingredients. The first one, since conflicts make people very anxious and our brains don't work well when we are upset, whoever raises a problem, if you're the one that has a problem here, needs to use a soft start, right? Such as an XYZ message with gear shifting, which we talked about, to power listening as needed. This will set the stage for discovering the real needs at stake during step 1 and helps reduce the emotional overload that usually accompanies a conflict. Okay, number 1. And whoever identified the conflict must invite the other to join in a search for a new solution that will meet both of your underlying needs. So again, if you're the one that has the issue here, the conflict, you have to let them know about it, right? And you do that with an XYZ message, right? You said it's a non-blameful description of the issue here. X, Y, and Z, right? How it impacts you, the Y, and Z, how it makes you feel. And then you shift into power listening when they get defensive, and then they tell you what their needs are, etc. And then you shift between both, right? And then you have to invite them. If you still don't, if the XYZ doesn't work, the power listening doesn't work, you're still in conflict, then you invite them. You know what? I want to invite you to join me to search for the solution here, and let's use this formula that I learned so we can both meet our underlying needs, right? Now, the willingness to discard the original solutions you brought into the conflict is very important. You have to be able to set aside your solution, your grand idea of how to solve this, which is usually how conflicts happen, right? You both have great ideas and they're in conflict with each other. So you have to be willing to set those aside. This allows you to uncover your underlying needs, which allow new solutions to be generated to meet those needs. As you do this, keep in mind the importance of getting beneath both parties' solutions to find the needs or wants they represent. Here are some examples. Watching a movie, going to the movies is a solution, right? Now, the need may be to get out of the house. I just want to go be out of the house, and the movie is a good solution for that. Or maybe to have fun, or to forget the pressures of life, right? Those are the needs. The movie's just one solution. It could be other things, but one solution is a movie, right? A car is a solution. The need may be for prestige, right? Because everybody else has a nice car. I want to have one as well. Or to attend the meeting. I need the car for practical reasons. I need it to get from point A to point B. Or to have dependable transportation for a job. You know, if you don't live in a big city that has a lot of public transportation options, obviously a lot of people, let's say in New York, you know, a lot of them don't own automobiles because it's not affordable. It's not practical. You get in the train, or you take a taxi, or you just walk, or you use your bicycle, right? But it doesn't work. That's not a solution for a lot of people that don't live in those big metropolis type of cities. Usually, you know, if your city's more spread out, I'm here in Southern California, in San Diego, and, you know, that's not the case here. You can't just take a bike from point A to point B. You're going to get there in 4 hours, right? You need a car, right? So that's the need, right? The car is a solution for that. Now, to understand the difference between needs and solutions ask yourself the following: what payoff would my solution produce? That's your need. When the needs are discovered, there are usually other solutions available to meet them if the original solution creates a conflict. People usually are just, they have tunnel vision, right? They just have one solution and they're adamant about it, and that's where there's a conflict with somebody else. But once you sit down and once you brainstorm and once you come up with what your needs actually are, then you realize there's more than one solution here. We can both win. It can be a win-win. That's why it's called the 6 steps to a win-win process. Let's do an exercise. If you go with me to your workbook and search for the movie script exercise. This is going to be a partner exercise. So I want you to do the following. I want you to choose who's going to be the husband, who's going to be the wife. Obviously, it's pretty straightforward. If you're married, and you can be the husband and she can be the wife. For this exercise, you are a couple and you have only a single car. You're a single car family. So there's only one car in the family. And each of you wants the car for something important. So the wives in this example, in this exercise, are going to be the guide, using the movie script as written to guide the process. I want you to actually read the script to your partner. And the husbands are going to role play along. Okay? So here's a backstory behind the initial solutions. The husbands want the car that evening for a meeting with colleagues to discuss a business matter that's important to them. The wives want the car to visit their sister for that evening. So the initial solutions are, I need the car tonight. And then the partner says, no, I need the car tonight. Those are the solutions, right? Initially. Now, these are the solutions that you will need to give up, as we mentioned, to find your underlying needs. So I'm going to give you some time now to work through the process following the 6 steps and hopefully come up with a solution that you both agree on. Again, the wives, that if you're playing the wife, you're going to read the script. I want you to actually read it word for word, the movie script, and the husbands are going to play along. And you're going to come up with this. You're going to use the 6 steps, work through the 6 steps. Again, finding the underlying needs, brainstorming, creatively, being realistic and choosing some of them, choosing one of the solutions, whatnot, and just work through the 6 steps until you reach a solution that you both are happy with. Again, it's called the 6 steps to a win-win. So you both are happy and you're both going to be winners here. One car in the family, you both need it, and you have to find the solution. So I'm going to give you some time now to go ahead and work through this, and hopefully you are able at the end of this exercise to find a solution that you're both happy with. You can start. Let's now recap this pillar on conflict and disagreements. Again, the ability of partners to handle conflicts and disagreements in ways that bring about positive resolutions and maintain or increase closeness depends on, number one, the underlying quality of that relationship. Remember, the first thing we did when we started this pillar is we had you do an exercise, right, on to find your baseline, how you treat others, levels of respect you give them, of love and of friendship, right? And we looked at that, the different scores. If you scored pretty high, that means that you're more equipped to handle conflicts that come up. Because remember, this exercise is when there's no conflict, right? Just in a day-to-day, how you treat coworkers, how you treat your children, your spouse, etc. So if you have pretty high score, it means that you're well equipped already. You have the skills already to be able to handle conflicts when they do come up. If you scored a little bit lower, then we encourage you to use the 16 pillars that you're learning in this class and all these conflict resolution and communication skills for you to be able to handle these conflicts. So, number one, the first point is the underlying quality of your relationship. Number two, the ability to use XYZ messages, power listening, and the 6 steps to a win-win to find solutions that work for all parties. Again, the key here is we have to find a solution that works for all of us. A lot of times in a lot of relationships, it feels like we're in different teams, right? I want to beat you, right? I'm the Padres, you're the Dodgers, or whatever, right? And there's like a rivalry there. No, you're on the same team. We want to win together. We have this conflict here. Let's find a creative way to reach a solution. That's when you actually use the skills that we're teaching here. That's when you are on the road to having a world-class relationship. That's when you see a couple that's been married for 50 or 60 years and you ask them, what's the key? They'll tell you, we've learned, to fix our issues, to repair any damage, right? To learn. It's not that they don't argue, because we all argue, right? All couples argue. That you're going to have conflicts. That's life, right? It's we're humans. We have emotions, but it's how you handle them that matters, right? So if you're able to use these 16 pillars, right, and also XYZ messaging and power listening and the 6 steps to a win-win to creatively find solutions that works for all involved. Doesn't matter what relationship you're talking about, whether it's your spouse, at work, with a coworker, with a client, with a friend, with your children. These 16 pillars that I've mentioned here are designed to give you the tools with which over time you can improve the strength and quality of the relationship to make conflicts easier to resolve. It's not a magic wand. We get that. You have to actually be intentional in working, right? And working these 16 pillars. It's not just knowing them intellectually. Listen, I struggle with it as well. I've taught this for many, many years. I know the skills intellectually in my head, but sometimes when I get really upset with my daughters or with my spouse or with somebody, you forget, right? And you sometimes, without even unconsciously, you react. But if you can take a step back and again, know that, I'm sorry, I apologize. Let me try to repair this. Can we start over? And then once you take a moment, you go back and remember one of the skills that you learned of these 16 pillars, right? Like XYZ, like power listening, like 6 steps to a win-win, like a self-start, etc. Then we can start, towards that path to repair the damage, find a solution to the conflict that will lead us to have a world-class relationship. So this 6 steps to a win-win, it's just one. There's other conflict resolution formulas out there. This is the one that we're using, right? And the 6 steps to a win-win provides very effective conflict resolution process, right? For you to, it's easy to use. You can just print it out if you don't memorize it, right? There's 6 steps that are pretty simple. Regardless of the current quality of that relationship. You can use this with anybody. Even if the other person has no idea what you're talking about, you invite them. You know what? I have this process. It's a conflict resolution process. Are you interested in joining me so we can find a solution here? Even if they've never taken a relationship class like you have the skills. You can guide them, right? That's why we're doing all these exercises where we're guiding you and we're teaching you so you can internalize it, learn it, master it, so that when you have an issue, a conflict at work with a coworker, you can do this process where you sit down, you negotiate, you brainstorm, you try to find creatively and try to find a solution where both of you can win. Okay? So that is the recap for this pillar. Once again, I want to thank you for joining us. We're wrapping up session 6 of World-Class Relationship for Work and Home. Once again, my name is Alfonso. It's always a privilege for me to be here to guide you in teaching and learning these very valuable skills that if you put them all together, all 16 of them will lead a path, right, for you to have a world-class relationship in your home, in your work, or with people in your life. Until next time.
All right, all right. You have got to give each other a high five and a loving pat on the back.
We're now officially halfway through the full workshop. Way to go! Up to this point, you have learned 12 new tools that will enhance and bring value to all of your relationships.
Make sure you're practicing at home with each other or at work or even with other people in your life.
Great work, and we'll see you next time.